In recent years, there has been a lot of talk of indoctrination amongst parents in this country, mostly from more conservative parents and aimed at public education. Concurrently, there has been highly addictive media in the form of apps that have been made easily available to the very children these parents seek to protect from what they call indoctrination. Though there are parents that make every effort to shield their children from these apps, there are many more of them, it seems, that hand over devices with no parental controls or guidance, allowing their children to be indoctrinated not by schools and teachers, but apps designed to be addictive and have almost no regulations by any agencies. In this presentation, I will be showing you the symbols, language, and underlying messages found in Roblox. My concentration will focus on two games within the app, which are referred to in Roblox as experiences. These experiences that I'm going to examine today are Dress to Impress and Ice Protest. A semiotic analysis of Roblox focusing on Dress to Impress and the Ice Protest experiences within the app reveals a world mirroring reality. This mirror is more of a magnifying glass, however, in that it amplifies the visual cues as signifiers that cue the imagination and previous indoctrination to the user. In the case of this app, user is typically a child. So in this first video, this is me with my avatar that I haven't added any details to yet. The first step in this game is that you go around and you go to like a salon, and then you go pick out your hair or your nails and walk around the game following these arrows and get your outfit from like various places. It's kind of the whole point of the game is to just play dress up, and I'll show you. There's the options. Notice they're all various shades of white. I found that that was kind of like the default. And then if you wanted to have your skin be darker, there was like a section of the game to do that. But I did notice that that was the default for the whole beginning of the game. And notice there's like lots of heavy makeup and cat eyes. Most notable of the images in the Dress to Impress experience include hairstyles, outfits, and the avatars themselves. Images of various hairstyles that players may choose for their avatars denote rainbow colored hair, afros, straight hairstyles, and every way to style them one can imagine, it seems. Same for nails. That can be any color or length. The choices for makeup are mostly cat-eyed and have heavy makeup with bold colors, something that has been universally appealing to most young preteen girls for decades. The clothing choices include short skirts and crop top styles. The surface denotation of these outfits is that they are clothing, but what is connotated by these choices is controversial at best and has changed over successive generations. Overall, the connotations expressed in the style choices in Dress to Impress demonstrate the need of children that age to discover and express their individual identities, and each style choice represents a rich subtext and story that is culturally defined and exists in a feedback loop within teen culture. They decide collectively, through real world feedback and through the voting and chat box within the experience, the value of each article of clothing or entire outfit, and what the styles mean. One example is goth, demonstrated by chokers, black clothing, and things like spikes, and another is LGBTQ signifiers like rainbows. My next step was to explore the app itself and generate an avatar, finding the same types of style choices, denotations of various outfits and styles, and their coordinating connotations. The body style, however, was more like the Lego looking avatar that Roblox is known for. Next, I tried an experiment with some AI tools, including CapCut and Meta AI. I used ChatGTP to create avatars and a satirical script using prompts inspired by Dress to Impress. Using very little input to describe their outfits, the app still seemed to intuit that the outfit should be short and revealing, heavy makeup should be used, and as a hilarious bonus, a character dressed like Dorothy, for some reason, was created to include heels normally associated with adult entertainment. Also note, the only male character is wearing a suit and sunglasses. Nothing revealing, and the only connotations are that the sunglasses imply that he is cool. I then used Meta AI to create short videos based on these PNG files and InVideo to piece it all together into a cohesive short video you can now watch.
In a virtual world where pixelated drip rules supreme, one group walks taller than the rest. The fashion elite of Roblox. Montage feel, quick cuts of avatars changing outfits. Fueled by limited drops, emote packs, and an endless thirst for clout, these avatars have ascended beyond mere customization. They've become icons, deities, algorithmic royalty. But something's changing on the catwalk. Runways now pass through surveillance zones. Outfits are flagged by content scanners. Strutting too freely can trigger a terms of service audit. The fashion elite are being watched. It started small. A glitch in a riot-themed jacket. A hat that resembled resistance. Suddenly, every strut became a statement. Every accessory, a political act. Without ever leaving the runway, these avatars triggered a revolution. The admin council deployed firewalls. Fashion Week was geo-fenced. Emotes were weaponized. But the fashionistas did what they do best. They posed, they pirouetted, they uploaded fits to the cloud. And the world watched. Not because they cared about Roblox, but because this was the most stylish uprising they'd ever seen. In the catwalk state, power is fashion, and the revolution will be accessorized.
That video ties together two seemingly unrelated topics. However, there is a common thread here. Both show the power of media and visual culture, which uses symbolic imagery that signifies specific images and cultural cues that depend on a culturally specific response to that message. Specific images used in media have been applied within these experiences that are at once visuals that have influenced children outside of the game and also the product of that being recycled into the game itself and used within their peer groups. Roblox presents to young people a microcosm of the adult world as seen, decoded, and then cycled back through their production of their own experiences through the developer tools in the app itself. In this next segment you're reviewing, I am sharing my trek through a Roblox protest experience. When entering the game, you get the option to pick out a free sign and type in what you want it to say. You can then walk around, read other players' signs, and interact with other avatars. The avatars are registered according to age to prevent adults speaking to children through the app, a safeguard that is actually the theme of many protest based experiences in Roblox, some with quite humorous titles and thumbnail photos. These Roblox experiences, some even directly created by children, represent a shift in how young people are using online platforms to express their emotions and process real world trauma. These virtual protests are being used to express frustration by children who otherwise likely feel disempowered by world events they are not old enough to effectuate against. despite being the most vulnerable population. This happening concurrently as the No Kings rallies makes total sense in viewing this app as a way for young people to empower themselves, at least amongst each other, and feel seen and heard as part of the larger picture of current events. As you can see, there are more than just chats in this experience. There are also billboards tracking who has spent the most time here and a place for tracking donations. You can see the game is filled with avatars that each represent a real world player. Like in Dress to Impress, these avatars are built and dressed by their human in many different, unique, and sometimes wild ways. Some even have horns or wings. This app allows the players to look however they want and roam around wherever they want in this virtual landscape. As a funny side note, some of my students come in to my classroom still mad at each other from something that happened in the game the night before. So it is actually very, very real to them what happens in the game. So moving on, even just from the thumbnails and descriptions, one can see that this game has a vast amount of semiotic coding that has turned this app into a language, a culture, and a system of communication of its own. Just as we read in the Stuart Hall article titled Encoding Decoding, simple visual signs appear to have achieved a near universality. In this sense, though evidence remains that even apparently natural visual codes are culture specific. However, this does not mean that no codes have intervened, rather, that the codes have been profoundly naturalized. This relates within Roblox, as many of the signs are things we tend to take for granted, such as light skin tones being the default, or certain hairstyles and clothing being normal, or judged to be deviant. But these are actually visual cues and speak to young people in a language taken from the visual world around them, and then employed by them as they make them their own. As you can see, there are many ice-based experiences on this app, but here I have, in this next one, uploaded scenes from my own adventure with one experience called Escape Ice Simulator. This experience is seen from a first-person viewpoint and is a simulation of running through a maze while presumably trying to not get caught by ice, only to be surprised by a giant glass of ice water. This is an obvious use of a sign, with the image of the ice water signifying immigration enforcement, and the imagery of the maze, the ice water, and the background music, in addition to the simplistic nature of the game itself, makes it very obvious that a child produced it and adds to the silly humor. One could assume that it is a child and one that does not fully understand the seriousness of what is happening in reality outside the world of Roblox. As we can see, Roblox provides a virtual world for children to express themselves, communicate with their friends, as well as a place filled with visual symbols and a visual language, both of its own and derivative of the real world they live and experience every day. It is also a place that can propagandize through these very visual codes by subtle and not so subtle visual language they don't necessarily have the wisdom to detect and decipher. Rage bait is one example, as a child may not understand that social media profits from provoking them. They also are easily influenced by the visual cues in experiences such as Dress to Impress, as they lack the real world experience and wisdom to understand what they are visually communicating, and the subtle messages presented in light skin tones being the default, and what unconscious messages they might be internalizing. In conclusion, Roblox makes for an interesting case study as a microcosm of real world propaganda, seen through the lens and directly directed specifically towards youth.